Hey everybody, Keith Dotson here, and in this video, the latest in my series about antique photographs, we'll be looking at the first whole plate tintype that I've ever found. This big tintype measures 6.5 inches wide by 8 inches tall, and it's by far the largest I've ever seen. When I first saw it, I thought it was a fake reproduction, but upon closer inspection, I realized it was a genuine antique photograph printed on metal. To give you an idea of the size of this, here's a 6-plate tintype, which is the size I normally find offered for sale. Many of the ones I find are even smaller than this, but it illustrates the extraordinary size of this print. The frame's not original. We can see the residue where an oval mat or frame or something once covered the corners. But the frame does look pretty old. I think it may be authentic to the family who owned this rather than something just tacked on recently by a reseller. Let's see what we can find inside. Wow, look at all those water stains on the inside of this backing. Well, look at that. Handwritten note on the back. Looks like a name, but it's very difficult to make out. Well, y'all, after much examination, I took a photograph into Photoshop and adjusted the contrast to help me make it out slightly more legible. It looks like it says Jabez Newcom, father of Alva. Okay, the first thing I did was run to Google to do a search, and I was able to find 2 Jabez Newcoms, although the names did have a B on the end. One of them in New Jersey would be slightly off on timing, and he had no children with the name of Alva. A more likely candidate from Ontario, Canada seems very promising as far as timing, but again, from what I could find, he had no children named Alva. So I'm afraid the identity of this man remains a mystery, even with the terrific clues left behind by someone. Jabez can't be more than, what would you guess, maybe 18 or 20 years old in this photograph? Here's another look at the whole plate and the 6-plate side by side. Tintypes were invented in 1853, and they've been made all the way up until current times, but they were most popular in the 1860s and the 1870s. Based on his mode of dress and his hairstyle, I believe this to be a pretty early one, maybe 1850s. Unlike the predecessors, the daguerreotype, tintypes were much easier and more affordable to make, and they sold like hotcakes during the American Civil War, with parents keeping them as a remembrance of their boys going off to war, and soldiers keeping them of mom or maybe a sweetheart back home. They were a wet plate collodion process in which light-sensitive emulsion was poured onto the surface of a piece of iron, not tin, which had been cut to size and then coated in black lacquer that actually also serves as the blacks in the image. The wet plate would have been loaded into a plate holder and slipped into the camera for exposure using daylight as the light source, then returned to the darkroom where the plate was then developed. The silver created the highlights while the black lacquer created the darks. Since it was a direct-to-plate technology, the image was flipped or backwards on the plate, and since there was no intermediate negative, there was only one original. In the raking light, you can see where someone accentuated his eyes with a fine paintbrush, some early photography retouch work. Well, I hope you enjoyed seeing this unique antique photograph. It's too bad we couldn't learn more about Mr. Newcom, where he came from, what kind of person he was. but I enjoy being able to put his name and face back out into the light of day, where it hasn't been for more than 100 years. Thanks for watching. Be sure to visit my website, keithdotson.com.